Hello and welcome back everybody to Scottish Independence Podcasts. Eagle-eyed among you will have noticed we're not in the studio. Behind us is
Kelvin Grove Museum.
Yep. And we're here for the All Under One Banner March in Glasgow. We've nipped out of it just to come and film these intros. So, yes, welcome to the first of our two podcasts for this week. This one is a conversation we had a few weeks ago now, wasn't it? With Gordon MacIntyre-Kemp, and it's largely about the energy petition that Believe in Scotland have been running. You might have taken part in it, you'll certainly remember about it. I'm sure there's some very good leaflets, but Gordon came back into the studio to tell us what the results were.
Yeah, because we'd been with them when they launched the whole thing. It was called iSwitch, wasn't it?
iSwitch.
Don't just switch your energy provider, switch to a different kind of country. In other words, switch to supporting independence for Scotland. So that was when it all started, and then it's he's added to it, and then they did the petition underway, and we both had replies.
We had several replies, and the petition was way more responses than I think Believe in Scotland expected, which is good. And Gordon will share who signed, who didn't, what responses they got. So let's go to the studio and speak to Gordon. We wanted particularly an update from you about the rip-off petition, as we're calling it. I don't know if that's the official name. It's the big energy rip-off petition. How's it going? Where have we got to with it? And what kind of response are you getting from this piece?
Well, where we are now is we've got 8,323 signatures, which is possibly 6,000 more than our base level target when we launched this. We thought, let's try this and see what we can get. Can we get a couple of thousand signatures? And the key about this particular petition was that to end the Scottish Energy Bill rip-off, basically what we're saying is it is completely and utterly unfair that Scottish people have to pay up to £55 a year more to connect to the grid than people in London, especially as Scotland is where the cheaper renewable energy is actually being generated. And if we had our own independent energy market, then prices could be a third or half less than they are right now. And the key thing about this is that Norway, who are sort of like identical twin nation, and it's always good to just look at Norway and say, how did they do it? And they've produced the same amount of oil of us. They've got roughly the same sort of style of coastline, but basically they've got something called the Norwegian price, which means energy is 3 pence per kilowatt hour, whereas we pay 27 pence. And so the question is, how come? How can they do it? And the answer is they've invested in renewables, they took their oil money, they invested in hydro storage, which we're not allowed to invest in. That's been stopped by Westminster because Westminster won't sign off on the cap and floor agreements, etc., to help investment for it. And as a result, we've got windmills which we're having to switch off rather than actually storing the power using hydro. So things could be a lot cheaper and better for energy. But even right now, so the energy price cap's coming down, but then the oil and gas prices are going to shoot through the roof now that we've got a war in the Middle East again. I don't know how long that's going to last for, but instantly it's actually increased gas prices significantly. And the UK power grid kind of relies on Middle East gas, liquid gas tankers coming in.
Yeah, what you notice is that even after everything calms down a bit, they don't necessarily come back shooting back down again.
And that is the issue. So basically, this petition's been sending messages to MPs and MSPs. So every time somebody signs, it flashes up and says, "Look, these." You put your postcode in, it says, "These are your MSPs and this is your MP. Yeah. This is the letters you're sending to them." And if they've signed, it says, "Thank you very much for signing." And if you haven't, and as it went on, the letters to the people who hadn't got progressively nastier, and so basically 220 MSPs and MPs were contacted and 78 signed. So a majority of Holyrood MSPs signed, which just goes to show that if we're an independent nation, then action would have been taken on our electricity bills. Of the 78 that signed, not one was a unionist.
Yeah.
Not one.
Yeah.
And so basically what this shows is that the unionists aren't looking after Scotland's interests. They're quite happy just to let Scotland get hammered in whatever way possible, and they'll just make excuses for Westminster. so our view with this new piece of software that we've got, this email petition, this action petition, is that we're just going to keep on using it, and we're going to make it clear again and again that the unionists are saying no to this, no to this, no to this, no to this, and no to this, and then we're going to make them campaign for no, because then people will know what no actually means, right? Yeah. They can't get out of it if they've already voted against it by not signing our petition.
Yeah.
You know? And they won't be able to lie, because we'll have it in record that you didn't sign when we asked you to do this.
2 MSPs who I didn't even realise were representing me, because I've never heard anything from them before, and that was Claire Baker and Alex Rowley. Mm-hmm. That sticks in your mind, you know?
Yeah, I'll bet you the Alex Rowley one surprised you a little bit.
Yes, he was very positive, actually. I like Alex Rowley.
Leonard and Rowley, the past sort of Labour doyens of the more socialist era, were actually quite positive, but they didn't sign. But they were the 2 who came back and said, you know what, you've got something here, we kind of accept this. If you're a MP, then there's only one of you, and you're going to get an awful lot of you get a bunch of emails. But the MSPs have a whole region of people sending them to them. So what we've actually calculated is that Douglas Ross received 1,300 emails telling him to sign this.
And did he reply to anybody?
We have never seen a reply from Douglas Ross. No one has forwarded one, and basically, if 1,300 people got replies, we'd have had at least 100 of them. Murdo Fraser was only 50 behind that, and he didn't reply to any either, as far as we can tell. I don't mind if somebody's got a reply from Murdo Fraser, send it on to me. I'd prefer them to reply, because we want them to put it in writing. That they're not going to sign, because their excuses are pretty awful. But the petition page has been visited around 29,000 times. And it shows what the reach has been, and our Facebook reach has been hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah, great.
Alone. So, and you can see how it's changed. We started talking about energy at the point that nobody else was talking about energy, and it has become a really big, or some people were, but not to any reasonable scale. And then the political parties have got on board, and it's become a major theme of this election, the cost of living crisis caused by energy. But also the Scottish Affairs Committee was actually talking about standing charges. And just I watched it, and I've never heard unionist MPs be so passionate asking questions about standing charges. Well, of course, because they'd had some like 1,200 emails in the previous week between them.
What did you think about the very long emails that came back from Labour MPs? It took some of what's in the petition, it took it to task a bit. But what did you think about that one?
Well, actually, the best thing to do is actually to put up that map that you had before, and I'll explain how they're wrong. Okay, so basically, if you look at that map there, you can see that the 2 highest cheap renewable energy producing regions are North Wales and North of Scotland, right? And they're the 2 highest charges that you can actually get. Now, there's a little bit of Merseyside in the North Wales one as well. So basically, what we said is that Scottish people are charged more than anybody else, than any region. Scotland pays the highest, right? Mm-hmm. And so a lot of Labour people looked at our map, or wherever they could find the information themselves, and went, no, Scotland doesn't, North Wales does. But North Wales is only half a country. And if you look at South Wales, it pays 193, one of the lower ones. So basically, if you take the households in the 259 as a percentage of the whole of Wales and work out the average for Wales, they pay less than Scotland does. Yeah. So Wales pays less than Scotland. Yeah. So, I thought, do I just go big on this and say, you're wrong? The truth of the matter is that they're actually just advertising that Wales should be an independent country and that the UK is hammering Wales as well. Yeah. But they are wrong. Scotland, on average, Scottish people pay more than any other nation in the United Kingdom, right? Yeah. Absolutely. They are wrong at that. And they just looked at that and went, no, look, 259, it's not Scotland. But it is, it's Scotland. But that I don't want to diminish the fact that there's an energy bill rip-off, especially in Northern Wales and Anglesey as well, where a whole lot of hydro electricity is generated.
Yeah, and if you flip that on its head, there's also a huge unfair advantage if you're sitting in the south coast and you're doing nothing about generating it, but you're getting the cheapest charges.
Well, this is interesting because what I've actually done is I've looked at this and I thought, well, what's the policy behind that charging system? And the idea is that in the olden days, many decades ago, coal-fired power stations were built, in the Midlands, etc., and therefore they went, oh, well, we have to figure out how we're going to divide the cost of the infrastructure. So we're going to charge you the further away you are from these stations. Or you paid more because we're sending electricity further. So the electricity has to go further, ipso facto, you have to pay more. Great. And then all the coal-fired power stations shut down, and as of a few years ago, there isn't any anymore. And then they went, oh, it's not the same anymore. It just looks the same. It's not the same reasons. But actually now, the energy's been produced in North Wales and Northern Scotland. Yeah. So if living further from where it's produced is the cost, then it should flip. Right.
That was something that was in the standard letter that they put, that they've not kept up with what's happened, because I'll quote from, households do pay more than some other parts of the country because of the additional costs of getting electricity to households and investment in grid infrastructure. So they're saying it's cheaper to get electricity from Scotland to the south coast of England than it is from Scotland to another place in Scotland.
And the thing is, the grid has to go to Scotland, otherwise electricity isn't going to get put into the grid from the renewables. So you have to come here. But so the issue is, so if you're saying to yourself, well, what's the policy now for having it structured that way? Well, there's only one policy, and that is to make it cheaper for English people. To make it cheaper for people in London and the South East, where the majority of voters are. Now, that's fair enough. Be open and honest about that, right? But actually, what about net zero? What about reducing carbon output? If you then said, okay, let's base it on actual government policy, stated government policy, not just the usual, oh, let's try and do everything we can for London and the South East. If you actually try and base it on stated government policy, and you say, right, let's actually give a discount if your region is more carbon neutral than other regions. If your region produces renewable energy, let's give you a discount if you live within 10 to 20 kilometres of new pylons and grid infrastructure. If your life is being disrupted by this, if your views are being disrupted, let's give you a discount on that as well, and actually base it on the environmental things. And then you realise that actually London should be paying the highest, and Scotland and Northern Wales should have the lowest. So I've actually done all of these calculations based on disruption, based on locality to new network infrastructure, etc. It's taken me a couple of weeks to do, and I've come up with a new standing charge infrastructure, which makes Scotland pay the least amount. And then I want to put that out there and challenge all these people who wouldn't sign, and say, so this is based on renewable energy and getting to carbon zero. What's your charging system based on, other than ripping off Scotland, ripping off Wales?
Yeah,
that sounds great. Well, I look forward to seeing that map.
But at the end of the day, we do have some of the most expensive electricity in the world, and Scottish businesses in the Highlands region, like pubs and hospitality, hotels, etc., they pay the highest commercial prices for energy anywhere in the world. Now, you might think, oh, that's really unfair, but it's only a few hotels and hospitals. It's only Oban. It's only no. Sorry, but we have watched the north of Scotland be hollowed out of population because of opportunity and finance and unfairness for generations upon generations upon generations. I think it's time we actually started saying, you know what, as a priority, we want to give you guys a chance to thrive. But also, so the Highland region pays the highest in Scotland, or the second highest after North Wales. But the Highland region kind of starts at I think Dundee's even in the Highland region. I'll have to quickly check that, but it's pretty much the central belt, and then everybody else. So it's called South Scotland, and then everything else is called Highlands. So yeah, and a lot of people in the Highlands live in areas that are generally going to be colder than even where I live in Glasgow. But certainly, if you live in Kent, you're going to be a heck of a lot colder in the Highlands. So you're going to have to use more electricity. But also, if you don't use electricity and you're going I can't afford this, and people are actually, there are stories about babies getting to 2 years old and they've never been washed in hot water because the parents can't afford to, and so they're turning down the heat. They're still getting the most expensive or second most expensive standing charges, even though they're not using energy.
Yeah, indeed.
So it's penalising you for good behaviour as well. If you look at how much of our transport system we have electrified, and people driving electric cars, we're still paying more for that electricity. Every way you look at it, it's unfair.
Yeah,
but it takes money out of the Scottish economy. And the other thing is, I would love to see some significant investment in AI. I know a lot of people have trouble with AI. I don't have trouble with AI. I have trouble with a lot of people who are using it to try and rip people off and fool people, right? But AI is an absolutely essential tool for the future. And I would like to see Scotland have massive data centres that are running on our renewable energy, so you don't have to turn it off. You can use the energy all the time, and that could be really cheap. But you know what? You can't bring AI to Scotland without massive subsidies, because the energy is too expensive. And Norway's aluminium smelters, I think they've got 7. We've got 1, and our one's struggling. And 5 of their 7 are actually owned by the Norwegian hydroelectric company, because they had too much energy and they wanted to know what to do with it, so they started aluminium smeltering business.
And we pay constraint payments instead. It was something like £1 billion last year for not having the wind because the grid couldn't take it. It's just ridiculous.
But if we'd had enough investment in hydro storage, we wouldn't have constraint. So actually, you're paying to people to switch off because you've given them a guarantee. But if you'd actually invested in the hydro storage, and I know there are environmental issues around certain hydro storage facilities, there's complexity in wherever you look when you're running a country, running an energy system. But at the end of the day, if we'd had enough hydro storage, we absolutely could run more windmills. The other thing is, people's lives have been turned upside down with new pylons, etc. We don't need these new windmills. We're supplying all of our own energy. Every single wind turbine that goes up has been put up for one reason and one reason only, and that is to supply energy to England, because we don't need it.
Yeah, exactly.
So we should get the benefit.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? It's just always, these conversations, we just always come back round to the same basic fact, isn't it? That because we're not independent, the whole thing's in so much worse than it could be. In Northern Ireland, they don't pay standing charges. Was that right?
Yep, we don't pay standing charges. It's all just by how much you use, which is a fairer way of doing it. The other thing about Northern Ireland, I think, is quite interesting, is that when people say, if you go independent, we can't have 2 grids, etc. Yeah, Northern Ireland's not part of the UK grid. Northern Ireland's part of the Irish grid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
In fact, we want to be part of the European grid.
We want our own grid.
We want our own grid, but we want it linked internationally, and that's the only way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. John Swinney has said repeatedly that our energy bills would be a third less if we were independent. Where does that third come from? Because the other thing that I suddenly get all knotted up in my mind is, yes, but these are a whole load of private companies that are extracting wealth from this. Can we actually reduce bills by a third if we're independent, but they're all still privatised in the same?
So over a period of time, you absolutely can reduce bills if you have the right policies in place. And this is the thing, the private companies don't set the price. The government, and through its energy policy and its investment policies, its standing charges and its regulator set the price, right? And so basically the energy companies are making an absolute mint. The way it works is that there's a UK energy market, and the UK energy market works on the basis of tranches of electricity. So basically, you say, okay, over this particular period, we need X amount of electricity. Who can supply this electricity? And you go to the lowest cost generator of electricity, and you ask exactly how much they can guarantee or how much they want to contract for at that time. And if it's renewables and they supply, and this is where I can't remember the numbers, but let's just say renewables say, right, we'll supply a third. And so you go, great, we'll get a third at the renewables price. And then nuclear comes in and goes, oh, we'll pay you, we'll supply this at this price. Okay, so we've got the second cheapest, but it's not, because they just don't put all the costs of storing the stuff for 3 million years on the actual electricity bills. But basically, and then you go, okay, gas burning stations, etc. There's various other smaller things that you can do, tidal, etc. And so basically, all the renewables or the onshore wind turbines come in as the cheapest, and then there's offshore wind, and then there's nuclear, etc. And then there's gas, which last year was 41% of the entire UK's supply came from gas. Much of it is imported from the Middle East in tankers in liquid form. And that was the most expensive way to generate electricity. But the way the UK government has set things up, everybody, including the renewables companies, get the price for gas.
Yeah.
Even though gas is 3 or 4 times more expensive from time to time than renewables. It's dropped down a little bit now, and in fact, it's just jumped back up, I think, about 10%, right? Just overnight, basically. So basically, you're paying for the price of gas burning stations, even though the majority of 60% of the energy you're getting is cheaper, and therefore the energy companies make an absolute profit. So they're making record profits and giving that money to shareholders, while poor people who can't afford to heat their homes are getting hammered by standing charges. This is a policy decision by the UK government. And if you say, okay, I'll tell you what, Scotland has its own independent energy market, how much can we supply from onshore wind? 200%. Oh, okay. And everybody gets charged the price for onshore wind, and that's how your price drops, right? And then say, okay, well, Scotland's got other more expensive ways of generating electricity. Well, let's export it to other countries that don't have the assets that we've got. And that's the Norwegian model, etc. And the Norwegian price, as I say, is almost a tenth per kilowatt hour of ours, because they have been making decisions for the benefit of the people of Norway, not for the benefit of the people of Germany or France or even Sweden, right? And so that's how basically, but it can't be done overnight. So it's not a case of you're independent, your energy bill just dropped. It's a case of we're going to bring in investment over a period of time. So yes, it would start. There would be a drop pretty much overnight, but also it would be a smaller drop, and you could build and build, and as you build the infrastructure and put it in place, then you can also get those bigger reductions over a period of, say, a generation. You start moving towards the Norway price. But the other thing is, it's not about just price reduction. I would actually say that there are some things that would actually stop us reducing prices, such as I would have a well-being energy policy that says no kid should reach 2 without being washed in warm water.
Yeah, absolutely.
Children should not be cold. Pensioners should not be cold. And so you have to have, and Norway has this, you have these ways of catching these people that society is leaving behind. Because, capitalism, neoliberal capitalism, which along with fascism, are the 2 things I want to destroy in this world, and maybe the union, it might be third. But
the patriarchy.
That's my way of doing it. Royal family. That's another podcast.
Well, that's
another podcast.
Yes, that is another podcast. Maybe not destroy them, but make them live in a much smaller
indeed.
house.
Indeed, destroy the institutions that are ruining us. So basically, a well-being policy says there is a level of energy poverty you're not allowed to fall behind. And if we accept that, then we're not going to reduce prices to go, hey, look, you've got the cheapest in the world, etc. We're going to go, because if you do that, people aren't going to get ill, and you're going to save money in the NHS.
Yeah, other ways. Yeah.
Oh, totally.
People aren't going to be miserable and depressed.
Yeah.
Children are going to grow up with a future rather than being depressed and thinking that there's nothing for them in this world.
Yeah, I spotted this in The Guardian, and it's why nuclear power is more expensive than all other sources. And wind and solar are, by far the cheaper, then gas, then black coal. You get into nuclear and small modular reactor, which is the one thing they're desperately trying to pitch. And certainly I've heard Labour talking about
where are they?
that.
Can anyone point to one in the world that's actually working and plugged into a grid? Anywhere?
Exactly.
Anyone?
Yeah.
Exactly.
all the Labour MPs' standard thing was on about, the SNP should drop their ridiculous resistance to nuclear. And you think, no, we shouldn't, for lots of reasons, but that's one of them. Yeah.
We don't need it. Yeah.
I was going to say, that was a really good explanation. Thank you for that, because that really helped sort of tidy some things up in my mind.
No, I like talking to you guys. People think economists are boring, but you guys seem to be quite interested in it. So I'm quite happy to explain how markets work.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that whole thing about how if you have to start buying wholesale gas, and then you end up, everyone gets a wholesale gas price. I mean, you kind of think, God, that's cockeyed, isn't it? But the other thing is, it only happens because of demand from England, doesn't it? It's English demand that tips it over into needing to buy that wholesale gas. So again, it's just another example of, where Scotland and presumably Wales as well come off second best.
The issue is that if Scotland becomes independent, and if Wales also becomes independent, and Ireland unifies, then actually the electricity price in England is going to go sky high, because they've got the wrong policies. Their energy price is only protected somewhat by extracting from Scotland and Wales in particular. Yeah. I can't think how long it's been. I'm racking my brains here. So when does the last UK nuclear power station come online?
30 years.
30-something years. So nobody who had any level of skill in actually plugging a nuclear power station into a grid is still either alive or working. And you see how it's running over, etc. Yeah? I speak to a lot of guys in the energy sector, and I say, look, I'm concerned about this. And they go, yeah, we're thinking of retiring before that comes online. Right? Because it's going to supply such a huge percentage. That one station is going to supply such a huge percentage of the UK grid that if it comes online and then it goes down, and this is the thing, that you've actually got to have a base load or the grid collapses. Remember in Spain there was all these blackouts? Yeah, that's because they went below base load, and bit by bit the network just started cascading down here, down here, down here, and no engineer can chase it. You don't know where it's going to go, right? And the thing is, when you bring a nuclear power station on, and if you go, there's a problem, teething problems that switch it off, your entire grid goes down. It just doesn't make sense, not just from an environmental point of view, from an expense point of view, or even a practicality point of view.
Yes, that's true. And I mean, it's such an old-fashioned way of thinking about supply and demand and grids, isn't it? It's like there's so many smart ways that you can use a grid, smart grids, make them local and making it cheaper and greener for everybody. So, a big power station somewhere supplying a huge amount of electricity for a nation. It's terribly...
The UK is such a traditionalist, old-fashioned system after system after system of government, of energy, of transport. Everything is based on 100-year-ago thinking.
Yeah, and wealthy lobbyists as well. I mean, there's so many vested interests involved with deep pockets. It just, everything comes back to me for the sooner we're independent, the better. We can start making inroads in some of these things. And we've got quite a list of things to be cracking on with, haven't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so anyway, thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much.
That was great.
Pleasure as always.
Do a lot about that. It was really good getting Gordon in to talk about that and go through. It's interesting. He likes it that we ask questions about economics, because most people aren't interested. We kind of are. We're not very well informed, but we're kind of interested. But I think, you see, he was the one who started talking about energy, and since then it's been picked up. It's now a major issue in this election campaign, partly of course because of what's happened in other parts of the world and pushing the electricity prices up. But I think it's down to a large extent to Believe in Scotland and his push that it's been picked up in the way it has as part of the independence movement. So good on you, Gordon.
Yeah, because we're the week before the election right now. We've had a look at what the main parties' manifestos say about energy.
Sort of representative keywords.
Some key statements that they've made about energy. Of course, the manifestos from the various parties have been published. And as you know, we've been doing a countdown to Holyrood 2026. So we thought we would add in this little segment, which is a countdown of the main parties' manifesto, what they say about energy. This is what they're promising to do if we elect them. I've picked out 7 parties here. We're going to go from number 7, which is the worst, through to number 1, the best. In 7th place, would you believe it? Reform UK. I hadn't appreciated just how radical their manifesto is, because in their minds, they're back in the 70s when North Sea oil and gas was going to provide energy security, job security, highly skilled workforce in Scotland. So reforms plan. So first of all, they want to scrap all SNP net zero related targets. Well, I don't think SNP are the only part of the world that have a net zero target. EU has a net zero target, for example. They also want to scrap any SNP net zero subsidies. What are these? Because all that's reserved to Westminster. And quangos. Do we have net zero quangos? Not aware of them. But if we do, Reform are going to scrap them. Or maybe they're going to scrap all quangos. So there's your NHS trusts, for example, gone. Next, they're going to end, again, the SNP's ideological ban on new nuclear facilities in Scotland. Is it an ideological ban not to want to rely on the most expensive energy that takes the longest to install, that has thousands of years worth of toxic waste and provides tritium for the arms industry? Is that an ideological ban? It sounds like a sort of very sensible ban to me. Prepare to rehabilitate North Sea gas as our primary energy system. Well, again, let's get back to the 70s, the good old days when gas had first been discovered. There was no thought in those days that it would ever run out. There was no thought in those days that it might destroy the environment. The idea that North Sea gas might be our primary energy system again is ridiculous. And also, I thought you just said you wanted nuclear, but this one takes the biscuit. I kind of expected them to be pro-nuclear, resurrecting gas, but I had completely missed that they're going to revise and simplify the planning system to fast-track permissions for open cast coal mining. Now, wherever you live in Scotland, you may live in an area that was previously a coal mining area. The one thing that you probably haven't got any clamour for locally is to reopen that coal mine. I remember in the 70s, people going, no son of mine's going to work in the coal mines. Open cast coal mining, whilst retaining protection for our invaluable natural beauty and taking into account local communities. Well, would those be the same local communities that have open cast coal mine in them, whose kids are going to work in this open cast coal mine? I mean, instead of being called Reform UK, I suggest they call themselves Rewind UK, back to some mythical 1970s when coal was king, North Sea gas was the way of the future. Nobody had to worry about things like science. Anybody who's thinking of voting for these charlatans, please think, who's going to get rich from open cast coal mining and North Sea gas regeneration? Not us. So Reform, the strapline at the bottom, they will deliver an energy system that is secure, affordable and reliable until it runs out or the planet becomes uninhabitable. I have news for Reform UK voters. Your money is going to burn just like everybody else's when you destroy the planet. Number 6, would you believe it, the Scottish Tories? The Scottish Tories manifesto is pretty much all, see all you poor people, could you just give your money to us rich people, please? And could you stop complaining about it? But they have a great wizard wheeze to solve the energy crisis. They reckon there's going to be a lot of money in that Crown Estate revenues. That thing that was going to be our sovereign wealth fund that was going to see us through the bad patches? Well, Scottish Tories are going to take that money and they're going to give everybody a £100 energy bill discount, presumably a one-off energy bill discount, and that's it. They're not going to invest in anything. There's no thought for the future. They're just going to make us all shut up whining about energy because they're going to give us a £100 bung and then get on with trying to get rich people's taxes down. So that's number 6. They're not as bad as Reform only because they didn't mention coal mines. Number 5 in our countdown from 7 to 1, Labour. they have some ideas. Their manifesto is extremely vague. It is almost all pictures of Anas Sarwar, this cult of personality that is Anas Sarwar. We know that they want to remove the ideological block on new nuclear energy. And again, we've said it's the most expensive energy. It's dangerous. Thousands of years worth of contamination. Takes 40 years to get online. Supports the nuclear weapons industry. And then the other thing that they're really majored on, which I just find really odd, is that they're going to support transition plans for key industrial sites such as Grangemouth and Mossmoran. Now, not only did Labour get elected to Westminster on the basis of promises that they would save Grangemouth, they didn't. They're only going to support them. They're not going to take responsibility for making them happen and attract new industry at some time in the future, secure a viable industrial future of some kind. It's all very vague. And given that the rest of their manifesto is only filled with pictures of Anas Sarwar and could he please be in Bute House because it's his turn, he really, really deserves it. He's going to clear up an unspecified mess in an unspecified way and also save the places that he said he was going to save before that somehow, carelessly, he failed to save. The only reason it's not last place is because, again, no coal mines, Anas, but also not quite raiding our resources in the Crown Estates Fund to give a bung to people. There's no mention of actual bribes in it. Number 4, the Lib Dems. And much as I really can't stand Alex Cole-Hamilton, to be fair to other Lib Dems, they're not bad. There are quite good things in this manifesto. Make homes warmer and cheaper to heat with new emergency insulation. Good idea. Accelerate the rollout of climate-friendly heating systems, including heat pumps and district heating. Again, good idea, especially the district heating. Rewrite the rules so local people get much more of the money companies make from generating renewable energy near them. If they have power over those rules, yeah, sure. I'd suspect they haven't, the way they phrase that, but if they do, great. My issue with this, and they are the best of the unionist parties in terms of energy, I think, but my issue with them is they've been in the Scottish Parliament for the last 5 years as members. Have they proposed any of these things? Have they mentioned insulation ever in that 5 years? I can't think that they have. So all of these things they could have been proposing, they could have been supporting, they could have been working collaboratively with the Scottish government to bring some of these things about. But I can't recall them doing that. So great if they're now going to move into it, but, it's a bit wishy-washy. Number 3 might surprise you a little bit, simply because it's not a big party and it's not appearing on any opinion polls. The Scottish Socialist Party. Production and supply of all forms of energy should be taken into democratic public ownership to create a people's energy service. They're going to tax the rich and big corporations to fund council district heating systems powered by clean energy, reducing heating bills, install solar panels on all possible public buildings, take the profiteering out of heating. In terms of high-level, big picture, radical change that would actually make a difference, nationalising energy, taking the profiteering out of it, I think that's a better option than all the unionist ones so far. The top 2 spots, which one's coming top? Well, in second place, I've actually put the SNP. Not because there's anything wrong with what they've got. It's just not quite as punchy as I would like it to be. Warmer homes, cleaner air, and a more resilient energy system. Great. Transition to net zero through sustainable green policies. Just transition, that's fine. Supporting people into new jobs, all good. We will ensure that future generations will benefit from the windfall of renewables, the ScotWind Wealth Fund, that's good. Accelerate investment in offshore wind, solar pump storage and emerging technologies. Okay, now so far, nothing to disagree with about any of those. It's a little bit vague. When they get to as long as we need fossil fuels, we'll continue to call on the UK government to approach decisions on a rigorously evidence-led, case-by-case basis. Yeah, that's sort of reinforcing that we don't have the power to do this. There's no mention in that energy section of independence. They seem to be accepting that fossil fuels are going to be around for decades yet. Now, in practice, they are, because plastics, pharmaceuticals, all these things are made out of oil. It makes no sense to burn the stuff, none at all. But we are still going to need some supplies. I don't think we should be calling them fossil fuels anymore, but there will still be a requirement for oil so we can make things. So that leaves, for me, the winner, not surprisingly perhaps, is the Scottish Greens. No nonsense, direct and determined. They've got an immediate end to new oil and gas extraction. Leader Renewal's Revolution with 600 million investment programme, tidal and solar, including redeploying the millions of public funding that's been pledged to unproven greenwashing carbon capture and storage technologies. There's some ambition here. Consolidate Scotland as the world leader in marine energy innovation, providing stability to the wave and tidal sectors. That's your base load. You don't need nuclear, which is Labour's argument. Bring back the Heat in Buildings Act. Well, we'll maybe have to fix it a bit, but help homeowners cut their energy bills by making the properties the most energy efficient they can be, expanding current schemes and rolling out bespoke support. Well, again, the Lib Dems also said about insulation, but this is a little bit more specific, I think. Ensure we benefit from jobs investment in energy efficiency, yes. Sourcing a minimum percentage of materials and components from Scotland. That is not being mentioned in any of the others. The fact that we are importing a lot of the stuff that we use. We have an extractive economy where private firms come in and take profits away from us. That could help to minimize that. But I really like this one. This is big. Pay for people to install heat pumps, solar panels, and linked battery storage and other green heating technologies on their homes, with help available for homeowners to remove fossil fuel boilers, with a 2035 phase-out target. Now, that is specific, it's clear, it's ambitious, and it's practical, because the one thing stopping a lot of people who, myself included, who'd be perfectly happy to get a heat pump, is we can't afford it. So actually getting the people who'd be willing to do it, providing the resource to do it, go street by street, go town by town, start making a difference, and then supporting the expansion of locally owned district heat networks and developing low-carbon heat networks. It's the most ambitious, it's the most practical, it's going to be the one that makes the biggest difference. And that's why I would say that is my top manifesto in terms of energy. There's a little word cloud of the Greens' manifesto commitments on energy. I should just say I'm not a member of any political party. We're not a party political podcast. That's just my assessment of reading the manifestos. Let me know what you think. You might disagree. Something that affects all of us. It's a cross-party in terms of people need energy. Obviously, lots of different ideas on how you would solve that problems, from the sublime to the ridiculous.
And I think what I think is interesting is that, although there was very little response from unionist MPs or unionist politicians in Scotland, including their MPs, apparently the Scottish MPs, Labour MPs, have been bringing the topic up loads down at Westminster and as part of select committees. So, they know they got all those emails, even if they didn't respond to them.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. And I mean, it'd be interesting to see if Believe in Scotland use that tactic again. They have the software to do mass petitions, and it could be something that's useful going forward.
Yes.
So anyway, hope you enjoyed it, and we'll look forward to see which of the competing manifesto ideas actually wins on the day. Thanks for listening, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that. If you want to make sure you're following us and subscribe to us, then you get notified every time we put something new out, so you don't miss anything. That would be great. Also, you can click the little bell if you're watching on YouTube.
And sign up for our mailing list. You can do that from the website, and we always send one out at the beginning of each month to tell you what's happening. Last but not least, you can buy us a coffee on coffee.com.